Thanks for joining us for Conversations with the Commish. Today we're joined by Lea Miller-Tooley, who is the founder and president of Complete Sports Management. Lea, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
You know, as someone from the outside looking at what you do, you maybe have one of the neatest jobs in the world. You get to run the Battle for Atlantis. How did that come about?
That started back in 2009. I played college tennis and played tennis with the chief legal counsel of the Atlantis in New York City. And he sort of let me know they were not going to renew Michael Jordan's celebrity golf tournament and they needed a sports property to take its place. So I love college basketball. I grew up in the South. I went to 2 ACC schools, so immediately college basketball came to mind. So that's the very brief synopsis of sort of the foundation of creating the tournament.
What are the challenges of running that event?
The challenges of running it are, small things, dealing with passports with the student athletes, making sure fans are coming down to travel on such an epic American holiday, which is Thanksgiving. Dealing sometimes with the Bahamian government can be challenging, but the beauty of the event is it's in one of the most beautiful destinations in the world. It's a resort unlike any other with the Atlantis. It's a 5-star property and it's completely conducive for an unbelievable environment.
And from that has evolved a lot of different things, but one of the From my perspective, one of the really neat things is then the evolution of a football bowl game in the Bahamas, which you were intimately involved in the development of, the Bahamas Bowl.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, I actually initially owned the game before Conference USA took over the ownership and then in turn sold to ESPN, but it started back in 2011. I went to a few of the media days for college football and I was pitching a regular season game. And Conference USA, who was a partner of mine within the basketball tournament, called me a year later and they asked me if I wanted to create a bowl game. So I immediately jumped on the opportunity, sort of innocence is bliss, and it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but absolutely the most rewarding. And then when we found out the MAC wanted to be involved, we knew we had a viable event, so without the MAC, there really would not be a Bahamas Bowl.
Contrast running a basketball event and a football event. Are there differences?
There are huge differences. One being the size of the travel party. A typical basketball team will travel 30 to 40 people. A football team, we deal with 150 people. The largest bus on the island is a 29-person passenger vehicle. So we'll have an arcade of 15 buses going from the Atlantis to the football field. So not everything being housed at the Atlantis alone is a challenge with the football.
You were a collegiate tennis player, then
Yes.
a youth tennis player before that, all those sorts of things. What did you learn from your experiences in tennis that are applicable today?
Sure, so being a student athlete was priceless. It helped create my entire foundation of who I am. The business accolades that I accomplished in New York City, working on Wall Street, transitioning into sports. You learn so many things through competitiveness, through a drive, a will, figuring things out, knowing you need to win the next point to win the set, not get your serve broken. It's the same thing with business, just really understanding the mechanics of the art of the deal and really having to figure it out and being sort of on an island by yourself. And really just having the confidence to be able to get the job done.
When you were growing up, who were your heroes?
My mom.
Why?
She was a fighter. She was independent. Our parents were divorced when we were really young, and she never said no. She always figured out a way to provide. So it was absolutely my mom.
And as you were growing up, as you're in high school, as you're in college, what did you think you wanted to do?
I didn't know. I wanted to move to New York City. I looked back, I wrote goals for myself when I was 21, and I wanted to travel the world and I wanted to work in sports. And so here I am, sort of living my dream.
What brought you into sports?
My dad played football at Georgia. My mom was a tennis player. Just growing up in the South, sports were, part of our everyday life. Every Saturday we were at a game or we were watching college football on television. I grew up a diehard, Duke, North Carolina basketball fan. So it was just part of our life. It was our everyday, thing to watch sports, play sports, be involved in sports, and then to come from a family, a lineage full of athletes.
For a number of schools, you take them on summer tours.
Sure.
What do you try to encompass in a summer tour when you have a team that comes to you and says, hey, we want to go to X, Y, or Z?
Sure. There are multiple facets that we focus on. Number one, it's the team building experience. So we really try and get the student athletes immersed within the culture of wherever we are. So whether, that's going to a museum, or whether that's, going to an orphanage, it's really just embracing the culture. The second facet is obviously the basketball. You want good competition, you want a safe environment, you want a clean facility, so we go above and beyond making sure all of those needs are met. And then, there's also the part of appealing to the significant others of these coaches who, don't get to really travel. They're stuck in gyms watching their husbands coach, so we really want to appeal also to the wives of the coaches.
Have you had mentors in the business world that you've looked to?
I have. I've been very blessed throughout, my career, whether it was in New York City, whether it was someone in my family. Really the closest person to me within the last 10 years was the president of the Atlantis, George Mark Antonis. He believed in me when all I had was a name and a phone number. I didn't even have a business card, and he allowed me to go out and create Battle for Atlantis in the way that I didn't know it existed. And through that, it cultivated priceless relationships, and it's how I'm getting to sit here with you today.
What's your favorite sports memory?
My favorite sports memory was we were playing North Carolina. I was at Georgia Tech, and I had the winning match to allow us to win, and we won the regular season championship. So that was fun, beating the Tar Heels.
10 years from now, what would you like to be doing?
What I'm doing right now. I love my life. I'm very blessed. I, love helping provide opportunities for student athletes to take them places they otherwise had never been, may never get to go to. I love working in the Bahamas. It's a culture full of amazing people. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. I want to do what I'm doing now.
Lee, thanks for being with us.
Thank you
thanks
so much, John.
for what you do for the Mid-American Conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.